What is a legal parent? I mean, it seems like an easy enough question, right? But when you toss in legal definitions and advancements in medical science, things get a little complicated. What is up? I'm Corlendos Scott, a third-party reproduction attorney in Los Angeles, and that simply means that my practice revolves around helping people grow their families through assisted reproductive technologies. Now, today we're going to be talking about legal parentage, and I'm going to break down what is a legal parent. I'll talk about how to establish legal parentage and when to establish legal parentage, all in the context of assisted reproduction. Let's get started. Now, before we get into the weeds, let's just use our common sense, everyday knowledge of these words, right? What is a parent? Well, a parent is someone, ideally a responsible adult who supports and takes care of his or her children's needs out of love or out of duty. Now, you won't find that definition anywhere because I just made it up, but I like it, and I think that's what a parent is. And that definition doesn't necessarily fly in the face of any of the legal definitions you'll find, so I'll keep it. But here's another somewhat trick question. What are the different types of parents? Well, you have biological parents, sometimes called natural parents, and I'll use this terminology to refer to the persons who contribute biological material that's essential to the child's existence, right? If you didn't donate that sperm or that egg or contribute that, then the child wouldn't be alive. That's what I mean by biological parent. You can think of this as the traditional parent that shares a biological connection with the child that they actively participated in bringing into the world. Now, a sperm or egg donor would also technically meet this criteria. Then you have adoptive parents. These are parents who are likely not genetically related to the child, but they utilize the means of legal processes to become recognized by the courts as the parents of a child. You also have state-determined parenthood. For instance, did you know that in some states there's a marital presumption? That marital presumption says the husband of a pregnant married woman is presumed to be the father of the baby she delivers, whether or not it's genetically his child. So if you're married and your wife has a baby, unless you rebut the presumption, you're presumed to be the father. And that's why you should make sure to include the surrogate's husband in the surrogacy contract if the surrogate's married. Then the last type of parent I'll list, or I should say parent-ish, because it's not a real parent, but it operates like one, is the state. Yep, you heard me correctly, the state. You may have heard the term, someone is a ward of state. And you may wonder why when I say that you think of Oliver Twist or Harry Potter. Well, that's because that phrase is often used when describing orphans. More technically, it refers to a minor under 18 years of age who is under the legal custody of a state or a subdivision of the state. And that's some flavors of parent. So when I say, what are the different types of parents? That's what I mean. Well, now that you know the different flavors that parents come in, it's a lot easier to understand what is a legal parent. Now, simply put, any of the prior mentioned types of parents can be the legal parent of a child. It all boils down to who, or what if you're talking about the state, who or what a court determines to be the legal parent and have parental rights and responsibilities. Now, this becomes super important in assisted reproduction because in this world, the genetic or biological parent may not intend on becoming the legal parent. The intent is many times for another person to become the legal parent of the child born through assisted reproduction. So that's why you hear people who grow their families through assisted reproduction referred to as intended parents. So how do you do it? How do you establish legal parentage? Well, like most things legal, you go to court. Well, you may not have to go to court, but your surrogacy attorney may have to go, or at the very least, she'll have to file a petition with the court. And that's why the final phase of the legal process of an assisted reproduction journey is direly important because that's where you'll be established as the legal parent of the child. So let's talk about when in the process you should do this. But before we do, I just want to let you know that I like you. I really, really like you. And if you like me back, tell YouTube, by clicking that little thumbs up button. I promise if you had a big like button right now, I'd be clicking all over your like button. So click mine. And while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe so you won't miss any of my upcoming videos. And if you know someone who's looking to go through the process of growing their family through assisted reproduction, then go ahead and share the video with them. Be a pal. In many surrogacy-friendly states, you can petition the court to make the determination that you're the legal parent, get this, prior to the baby even being born. Now, this is commonly referred to as a pre-birth order. Now, an order is just a fancy legal word that refers to an official proclamation by a judge, and that defines the legal relationships between the parties in a court proceeding. Essentially, it's the judgment that a judge hands down. And since you're able to obtain it prior to your child's birth, we call it a pre-birth order. Clever, right? You know, attorneys were never accused of being overly creative. Well, if your state allows for pre-birth orders, then typically you want to initiate the process of obtaining the order for at least 2 months prior to the birth so that you're prepared if the little guy or little girl decides to come early. So you may have to begin the process as early as maybe the 12th week of the pregnancy to make sure that you go through the process and that pre-birth order process is complete by month 7 or 8. Now, once you have that birth order, the only other thing to do is to make sure that you've shared it with your delivery hospital. They'll need that in order to let you leave the hospital with a baby that you didn't deliver without having to arrest you for kidnapping. So make sure they know you're the legal parents. And that came from an order from a judge. Now, some states that allow surrogacy make intended parents wait until after the birth of the child before you can petition the court for a judgment on the issue of your parentage. Now, surprise, surprise, we call these post-birth orders because they happen post-birth. Now, these states make things a little trickier for you because they often require that the surrogate initially go on the birth certificate at the expense of the non-genetic intended parent. Then the Office of Vital Records will amend the birth certificate to remove the surrogate and add the non-genetic intended parent after that Office of Vital Records receives the post-birth order. Now, many states are beginning to reconsider their positions on how to establish parental rights. Now, not long ago in Iowa, a surrogate gave birth to twins, but didn't tell the intended parents that she had even gone into labor because she decided she wanted to keep the babies. Now, unfortunately, at the time, Iowa didn't have pre-birth orders. So it's not like the hospital even knew that the babies weren't intended to belong to the surrogate. Now, the parents didn't even find out about the birth of their twins until after the fact and after the surrogate had begun efforts to be seen as the legal parent. So they had a surrogacy contract, believe it or not, but without being able to obtain a parentage order, they were still having to fight an uphill battle simply to bring their own kids home. Now, things are much easier when there's clear rules. So hopefully more states will add surrogacy language to their statute, and hopefully you're looking for states that already have that language there. So whatever you do, be sure not to overlook this super important part of the surrogacy process. And I say that to mean ask questions about parentage before you even begin the process. You don't want to wait until your baby is about to arrive to find out that you're in a state that doesn't allow for pre-birth orders. If you want help navigating the surrogacy process, I have something for you. It's a free gift. It's called the Surrogacy Roadmap, and it walks you through each step of the surrogacy process from beginning to end. So if you want that, simply click on the link below and you'll be taken to thesurrogacyroadmap.com and you'll get your hands on that valuable resource for free. See you in the next episode.